And we're live.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm hitting live on mine. It's not live on mine yet.
Oh. Now. Hey guys, we're just waiting for Kirsten's to be live on hers, but we're talking about the white light experience today because it's the anniversary. All right, it shows on mine that you're live.
Okay, that's so weird. Normally it doesn't do it like this. Hey, we're always learning and evolving here. Welcome to Burnie and Bestie live. I am just making sure this is actually live. Welcome to Burnie and Bestie live. What's up, people? What? Ooh. We are here on December 14th. 2025, which means it is 91 years to the date, to the mofo date of when Bill had his alleged white light experience in the town's hospital. Yeah, that's right, people. What's up, party people?
Oh my goodness. What
are we sure? Are we sure we're like totally live in all the places? Because I don't see it on my YouTube.
Really? It's showing up top on mine. Where did my phone go? I don't know where my phone is. I literally just sent a text message before we hit.
Oh yeah, I see it on my YouTube now.
Okay, good.
There it is. Yeah, okay. Okay, cool.
Yay.
It's weird because because I didn't kick this one off. You kicked it off, right? So, okay. I'm learning. Okay, so really, we're so glad you're here today. I'm so glad you're here today. We want to do a deep dive into Bill Wilson's alleged. I have no reason to believe that he didn't have this spiritual experience, but I wasn't there. So Bill Wilson's alleged spiritual experience. And yeah, so some of the things that I wanted to talk about today is just deconstructing his white light experience, looking at how that was the core, essentially, the prophecies, like proof that his idea had merit and therefore should be institutionalized, like in the legal system and the medical system and the rehabs and all of that. And yeah, I wanted to go through a little bit of looking at Jung and break it all down and see what everybody else here thinks.
Sounds good to me. I know I'm going to learn some things today just based off the conversation we had before we hit live. So I am ready to learn and ready to rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. Like I said,
okay, so anybody here watching today, did you bring your own belladonna? That's what I want to know from the top. Did you bring your own belladonna? Whether you are watching the replay or whether you're here live with us, I did bring a little liquid today. It is not belladonna. It is coffee. It's coffee with butter because I ran out of my MCT oil, which is on the way. But it's coffee with butter today, guys.
Nice.
It's a vibe.
Oh, well, I have my coffee with loads of sugar, my water, and my bong, so I'm good.
All right, cool. So what do you think about the spiritual experience? I just want to check my Facebook and see if it's there. I feel like I'm having a technical difficulty I want to look into.
Yeah, it's weird because I didn't see it on my YouTube, but I see it on my Facebook. So I don't get it. But so for the spiritual experience, like I said, I was looking at the appendix 2 in the big book where, they kind of clarify that the spiritual experience doesn't have to be this big white light experience like it was first explained in the beginning. And, I think it's just one of those things that it's like, there's just so many contradictories in everything that I learned. But I know for myself, the way that it was explained to me was that I had to have a spiritual experience to have a complete psychic change in order for the program to work for me. And that if I didn't have that complete psychic change, then I wasn't going to be okay, because it was like that saying, you just have to change everything that I forget the exact saying, but it's basically to change everything that you are, right? And until you have that complete psychic change, you're still that quote unquote, spiritually sick, suffering from that spiritual malady type person. So for me, I really believed that the spiritual experience was critical and crucial. And I felt like I never had it. I would kind of like make it up in my head. Sometimes I'm like, I think that was it. I'm like, I feel good today. So maybe I'm having my spiritual. And it was just one of those things. I wanted it so bad because, again, that's supposed to be the quote unquote cure that's supposed to rid me of this spiritual malady. But I never had it. And I think always wanting to have it, it just, always wanting to have it was one of those like preventatives from me getting anywhere, feeling like I didn't have anything.
Yeah. It's funny, like right before we hit record, we both talked about how we just both recently read The Spiritual Experience from the back of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I read it this morning, and yeah, he's like, the term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in the book. Upon careful reading shows that the personality change, we're talking about that cult persona, the personality change. So Bill's talking about, he's trying to convert you, right? The personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism. Now that's a truth claim that there is no scientific proof that truth claim is true. He says his ideas as facts. So he says the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism. First of all, we don't even use the word alcoholism in the United States of America these days in 2025. I apologize if in your country that is a valid diagnosis. So the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. And then he talks about like the educational variety or like whatever. I think he realized that so he has what's called like this prophecy experience. Are any of y'all here reading right now? I know we have the Deprogram Book Club. We're reading The Demon Haunted World by, where's the camera? Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. Is anybody else reading this book right now? So if you don't know, I have a deprogramming book club. It's in the Deprogram Lounge, which is a free group. The book club is free as well. Next Saturday, we're unpacking The Demon Haunted World by Carl Sagan. It's about critical thinking. And I highlighted a page in here that I wanted to read, or I should say where I'm actually at reading it. Hold on, let me mark my page. Okay, so this is something that Carl Sagan says in his book. He says, think of how many religions, and I'm counting AA as a religion here. I'm talking about Alcoholics Anonymous and 12-step religion when I say this. Think of how many religions attempt to validate themselves with prophecy. What is prophecy? That is when the leader, the cult leader, the religious leader, whatever, has a vision for humanity. And we know that Bill had a vision, right? We'll get into later whether or not that vision was medically induced or whether that was like what that was. Bill had a vision for humanity, right? So his vision was he saw allegedly a chain reaction. Have you seen this quote? A chain reaction of one alcoholic helping another to essentially convert them into religion. So then he talks about there are no forbidden questions in science. There are, according to Carl Sagan, which I agree with, there are no forbidden questions in science, no matters too sensitive or delicate to be probed, no sacred truths, the openness to new ideas combined with most rigorous skeptical scrutiny of all ideas. Yeah, so science is not, science is to be questioned, right? And then here's another thing I want to read from this book before we move on. Let me know if you're in the Deprogram Book Club. If you want to join, it's free. It's at sobrietybestie.com. And you can sign up. It's inside the Deprogram Lounge. But let me know if you're already reading this book. Some of us are. So it says, Scripture is used to be divinely inspired. Did anybody else think that the big book was divinely inspired? I was in on that mythology. That was part of my indoctrination process, was that the big book came, that Bill channeled God to write the big book. And like literally when I was crying on his grave in East Dorset, Vermont in 2018, I was like, thank you for channeling God's wisdom into the book and saving my life. And I meant it. And now I'm like, wow, true believer vibes. So it's crazy how we can come to believe a bunch of baloney and then we could unbelieve the baloney, right?
Yeah.
So Scripture is said to be divinely inspired. Check. A phrase with many meanings, but what if it's simply made up by fallible humans? Miracles are attested, but what if they are instead some mix of charlatanery, unfamiliar states of consciousness, misapprehension of natural phenomenon, and mental illness? Things that make you go,
I saw this comment. I just wanted to add it here. It's Harry said, my sponsor is mad at me because I pointed out that it's been 91 years since Bill Wilson had a hallucination. But that's awesome that you have a sponsor and that you're here. So thank you.
You know, what's so funny is like in the big book, in Bill's story, right? He says to Dr. Silkworth, was that a hallucination? And then what does Dr. Silkworth say? Good old Dr. Silky is a gaslighter in this moment. And he says, no. But we know that he was on multiple hallucinogens at the time. In fact, I put together a little cocktail so we can just do like a quick recap. I mentioned this on Thursday on my live stream, but I'll just really quickly. He was on, as we know, belladonna. Where do I have that cocktail? He was on acute withdrawal he was acutely withdrawing from alcohol. He was on, likely because it was the town's Lampert belladonna treatment, the opioid morphine to sedate him, a deliriant intoxicant, 2 of them. Belladonna is a deliriant, so he's delirious. 2 different deliriants, belladonna and henbane, hypnotic sedation, that's chloral hydrate and paraldehyde. And then his neurological system was stimulated by strychnine. He was getting strychnine every 4 hours if he was getting the proper protocol, right? This is what it is. Heavy purgatory and dehydration. It was called the purge and puke, right? With castor oil, and mercury exposure was a part of that as well. So we know that now to be a neurotoxin. So he was in an altered state of consciousness. He had sensory distortion, emotional liability, hallucination risk, memory disruption. I think that was such an interesting point in my research this week, is that all of those things would make his memory not, a valid source, right? And the bottom line for me, it's like, okay, so I don't know how many of y'all that had like hero dose experiences or been on psychedelics or hallucinogens before. And it's wild, right? Like there was a time, my intention on my first ayahuasca experience ever was to understand and heal my brain. And I will never do that again on psychedelics to understand my mind. Oh my God, it was the biggest mind fuck of my life. Bigger than leaving AA, actually, because it was like 10 hours. It didn't stop. Everybody's like leaving the Shala area and I'm still like in it, like, what the fuck? But there was 15 minutes of that excruciating long mind fuckery of ayahuasca, where I relaxed and suddenly I was inside of a spaceship and I was having surgery from like alien surgery, essentially. Like this device came to my head, it gave me surgery. I could feel it internally, where it was like what felt like maybe rewiring my brain. And that was a really cool experience. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I was not scared. It was really fun. It was really interesting. I remember it completely vividly, like what the inside of that spaceship looked like, my alien surgery. Let's do like quotes, my alien surgery. But it never occurred to me after my really cool alien ayahuasca surgery experience that could very well have healed my brain. I was very much struggling with my brain at that time. That's why I went to the jungle of Peru to do ayahuasca. But I never thought once, I need to preach this solution to a brain that needs a healing to go into a rocket ship and have surgery. Right. And I want to get people court ordered, and I want to get it into the medical institutions. I want what?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Burnie, about interpreting hallucinogens or hero dose experiences as fact?
I mean, everyone's is good. That's true for you and your story and your brain, right? But like, if I was to have the same experience, probably wouldn't be the same thing, even if I was going through, you know what I mean? Like maybe the aliens would come and do my brain, but probably not. And I think it's just kind of like that uniform thing of not thinking that, or having an experience and thinking that everyone else is going to experience it the same way, just like we do with recovery. We think because we have been through this experience that, you have people who take Suboxone and they think because they had a bad experience with Suboxone, then everybody's going to have a bad experience with Suboxone. I mean, it's just for everything. I think that it's true for you. It can be, everybody has their own truth and their own path, but it's definitely you shouldn't write a whole book about it and then, start a whole cult and treatment and all that shit to stem from it. Because when you think of how crazy it is, yeah, like probably Bill didn't intend for it to be his book that he wrote when he was high tripping balls in the hospital. Like, he didn't realize that this was going to be the foundation of treatment in America still, 91 years later from having that experience. That is like what mind fucks me, right? Is that this experience here, and you were just reading a bunch of shit. I was like, what the hell? I didn't even know half of that shit that you were reading. I don't even know what half of it even is. So, and it's like, okay, obviously he was feeling something. And then again, to think that still this is the main pathway, the main thing that is out there for people who go and seek help, it makes it even that much more of a like, what the fuck?
And that if you actually use hallucinogens yourself, it is considered a failure in the program, where that is exactly where Bill had his success. Is anybody Bueller? What the fuckery is this? Okay, let's just do a little refresher here about what Bill experienced. Let's keep in mind too that Bill Wilson's grandfather was notorious in his town for having gone up to the mountain and having had a God experience, a white light experience that struck him sober. Now, I couldn't find any evidence to support that he stayed sober for the rest of his life on the internet. So it's, to me, it's like mythology, right? Bill's just kind of saying whatever makes the story make sense. We know that Bill was like to tell stories, and that this is not like scandalous that Bill exaggerated the truth so that it could fit his point. So did he have the exact similar experience that his grandfather had? Maybe that, like, hearing that story as like a childhood story all the time growing up, because apparently his mom always read it to him. Maybe that seeded it into him so that he actually had that experience. It kind of like groomed him, or it was predisposed him to that experience or something. Maybe he borrowed it. Something obviously shifted for Bill for him to, and I think it was more Ebby preaching the Oxford group, and the Oxford group coming in proselytizing to him while he was very vulnerable. But Bill obviously had an experience, and most likely it struck him sober, and most likely he stayed sober for the rest of his life. Like, there's no reason for me to think that Bill drank again. Okay, but so here, although I wasn't there, right? But okay, here's what Bill supposedly said. What happened next was electric. Yo, bro, you were hot as fuck. Suddenly, my room blazed with an indescribable white light. I was seized with ecstasy beyond description. That's how I felt inside the spaceship, the alien spaceship.
Sounds good to me.
Every joy I had known was pale by comparison. The light, the ecstasy. I was conscious of nothing else for a time. Then, seen in the mind's eye, there was a mountain. I stood upon its summit where a great wind blew. A wind, not of air, but of spirit. In great, clean strength, it blew right through me. I really think this is exactly what his grandfather said. The wind blew through him, and the wind was God, right? I know. Then came a blazing thought. You are a free man. I know not at all how long I remained in this state. But finally, the light and the ecstasy subsided. I again saw the wall of my room, and I became more quiet. A great peace stole over me, and this was accompanied by a sensation difficult to describe. I became acutely conscious of the presence, with a capital P, of a presence which seemed like a veritable sea of living spirit. I lay on the shores of a new world. And then in this moment, he has the epiphany that he saw in a vision, a chain of one alcoholic helping the other. That's the prophecy. Most religions or cults are started with the founder origin story. There's a mystical moment with a prophecy for those to come. So, yeah. And then we have in the book, The True Believer from 1949. This book, great read, True Believer. In the book True Believer, he says, religious movements go back to the day of creation. And that is the desire of the the leader, right, to demonstrate the legitimacy of their movement. So this experience of his nervous system, which I don't doubt he was tripping. I mean, some of us have been in a altered state by hallucinogens or deliriums or whatever.
Right.
So this is a story basically of how an altered nervous system becomes divine proof of a medical answer.
Bro. Like, just the more that we're talking about it, just the more messed up it seems. It's like I've always like heard the story and it's been like whatever, but the more, and when you were talking about how he may have even borrowed part of that story from like his grandfather or whoever, like it's interesting. It is very interesting. Thanks, Julie.
Kate, will you put up Kate's? Kate says a spaceship was involved, rocketed into the fourth dimension. Yes, I had a spaceship experience of my own. I felt the presence of God. I also had an experience where I was going into my DNA with my consciousness, recoding it and rewiring my DNA basically with light codes. It really made sense in the moment, and it was a really cool experience on ayahuasca. And most of my ayahuasca experience was terrifying and horrible, and it really sucked, and I was scared.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I don't like psychedelics, but you know, and I don't know the answers to the mysteries of the world. And while I do agree that there are spiritual things that happen that we can't explain, like a fundamental reason of like why this is Bill Boozle and not like reality, in my view, is because he's taking his spiritual experience as fact. Spiritual experiences are great. He's not only taking it as fact, he's taking it as prescription for the rest of us. But in the prescription for the rest of us to have this spiritual experience that he had, he is saying, do my 12 steps to God, my 12 steps of AA. He's not saying take belladonna, delirium, morphine, strychnine, all of the other things that he was likely on.
Right. You're only getting part of it, you know? And again, it just goes back to, he took this as fact and he took it as, this is what it's going to be for everybody. You know, this is going to be everybody's path to, and I mean, I know people will argue, will say, well, no, they say that, you know, we have no monopoly and all of these things. And again, you know, it is very possible. And I do believe that the beginning of AA, they did not intend for it again to be where every treatment center is.
Wait, we have somebody saying they can't hear us. Can you hear me now, people? Can anybody hear me now? Will you let me in the comments? Can you hear me? Yes, no? Are you ladies muted? I can't hear you. I can hear you, Tara.
Yeah, I can hear you too. I haven't had anyone else say anything.
Let us know if you can hear us in the comments. I think the comments are also delayed a couple of minutes because we hear each other now and then okay, heard you all the time. Okay, good. Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure we were.
Oh no, yeah, no, it's good. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what I was saying anymore, but just that's not, oh yeah, how AA, I don't think AA intended for it to be, you know, the blueprint for, like they even said that more science or whatever was to come. But like I always say, it doesn't really matter what the intention was then. Where we're at now is where we're at now. And it's the foundation of recovery for pretty much everybody. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to read one more thing. This is more about Bill's prophecy. Remember, at the beginning of any good mythology or religion or cult, there's a prophecy from the cult leader, right? So this is a direct quote from his letter to Jung. By the way, thank you to I don't know your name, but you messaged me inside Deprogram Lounge. I really appreciate it, about the letters that Jung sent, or the letter that Bill wrote Carl Jung, maybe 20 years after the spiritual experience. Oh no, in 1961, actually. And then the letter that Dr. Jung wrote back to Bill. So in Bill's letter to Dr. Jung in 1961, Remember, his white light experience was in 1934, so this is quite some time later. In the wake of my spiritual experience, there came a vision of society of alcoholics, each identifying with and transmitting his experience to the next. Chain style. If each sufferer were to carry the news of the scientific hopelessness. What are you on about, Bill? It's not scientific. Your hallucination is not scientific. Hopelessness, the carry the great news of scientific hopelessness. So he's saying that there is no hope in science. He's the only hope. Okay. If each sufferer were to carry the news of the scientific hopelessness of alcoholism to each new prospect, he might be able to lay every newcomer wide open to a transforming spiritual experience. So here is Bill seeding in his letter to Dr. Jung about the necessity to recruit into his religion. Each person it's like a chain letter, right? Did you guys ever do those chain letters? Like, when I was a kid, there was this thing with chain letters where you're supposed to like mail $1 out to the person who sends you the letter, and then you'll get like $8 mailed back to you. What did they call that? It's like a chain, or it's like a scam, right?
Like
yeah. I don't want to read all of his. I mean, he goes on and on and on in his like his letter to Dr. Jung. And it's like all him trying to indoctrinate like his way is right, as if he's trying to get validation. And Jung doesn't validate him. He doesn't say, you're right, Bill, your way is the right way, Bill. And of course, Bill is talking about Roland Hazard. So here's how it all came about. This whole like Bill basically allegedly had a God moment on hallucinogens and is trying to validate it somehow with like credibility through, I don't know, a psychiatrist, Carl Jung, right? So the first step in this chain, Bill's little chain here, is Roland Hazard was treated by Jung in Zurich, 1931, 1932. So a couple of years before Bill got sober. Jung told Roland that he would need a spiritual experience. He said religious experience, actually. And then after that, Roland joins the Oxford group. He then helps Ebby. And we know that Ebby was in the Oxford group because the judge told Ebby, for, I think it was public drunkenness, you can either join the Oxford group or you can go to jail. And Ebby's like, bro, I'm going to go get religion. I'm not going to jail. And then Ebby recruited Bill Wilson into the Oxford group. And then Bill kind of pretends that like this whole conversion experience he had through the Oxford group while on hallucinogens is actually his idea for a movement. Like, it's like, make it make sense. So, yeah. What do you guys think about this? Let's see what people are thinking.
That's insane. It's wild. Did you guys feel that the spiritual experience, like having that complete psychic change, did you think that was mandatory for your recovery? Like, did you feel that if you didn't feel this something that you weren't really healed? Was that a big factor for anybody else? I know for me it was. Was it a thing for you, or did you feel it so you didn't have an issue with it, Kirsten?
I have spiritual experiences all the time. Like, it's not where I feel the wind of God blowing through my cells. Those experience, the experience that Bill's referring to, I've only had on the 3 times I've done a hero's dose of psychedelics. The first time psilocybin mushrooms, and the second 2 times ayahuasca. I had experiences like Bill's talking about. To me, Bill's talking about a psychedelic trip, a hallucinogen, he's talking about like a hero's dose, like he's drugged out. We know he was drugged out. And so I've had experiences like Bill's referring to where I feel things like blowing through my body. Like suddenly I'm on a mountaintop when I've been like in a psychedelic experience, right? Now, as far as actually just like your day-to-day spiritual experience, I have those all the time. And the way that I interpret, like, meaning for me, it's a physiological feeling in my body. Jung called it the numinous, or numinous is an actual word. Let's look at the definition of numinous so I can actually just read it to you guys. So numinous, according to Google AI, is numinous describes something that evokes a sense of the divine, mysterious, or awe-inspiring, suggesting a supernatural presence or powerful spiritual quality that both fascinates and overwhelms, often blending feelings of dread with profound attractiveness. Popularized by the theologian Rudolf Otto, the term relates to experiences beyond ordinary comprehension found in the religious setting, nature, art, or music. So Jung calls those, or they're called a numinous experience. Bill calls it a spiritual experience, or, well, originally it was a religious experience because it was having a numinous experience in connection to the Oxford group, right? So when it comes to a numinous experience, I have those all the time. I have feelings all the time where I feel connected to the whole, inspired, in awe. That might happen. It might be a moment in yoga. It might be a moment when I'm walking in nature. It might be a moment when I don't know, like there's all these like, so Bali is Hindu, right? And they have like a main god, but they have all these not other gods. They have a bunch of other deities or god-like things that all kind of are a piece of like the big god, right? They do all these rituals all the time. And so one of the things that you do, especially on full moon and new moon, is you do ceremonies where you put offerings on the ground for the lower gods, offerings up like higher up in your, like they have like ledges that you put the offerings on because they're doing the offerings every day, offerings to the gods. And so I stayed, for example, at this house that was right by a graveyard because it was right at the ocean, like during COVID, and this villa. And it was right, there was a graveyard right outside. And so I couldn't sleep the first night. It was like, and then the next day I said I couldn't sleep. It felt like there was somebody in my room or something. It was so weird. And then the staff was like, well, there's a graveyard across the street. There was probably spirits in your room. And I was like, wow, okay. So I was like, well, how can I appease the spirits so they let me sleep, right? Let me just go with the culture that I'm in. And so then I did a ceremony with them the next day outside my room where I put candy. You put like a piece of candy, you put a cigarette, you put it in this they have like little offerings. They're like little baskets basically, and flower petals are in there. And I did a prayer with them. I wore like some of the Balinese stuff where you have like a sarong in a certain way. And I went with them and I did prayers with them, and I did them in my head, and I did them in Indonesian because I can speak good enough Indonesian. And so I was like, okay, so please let me sleep tonight. Please, I respect you. Thank you for your land. Thank you for letting me be on your land. I did this whole, what I would call like a spiritual experience. And in my soul, I like felt something. Now, I don't know what that means as far as logically, but what I know is I felt in my body that I was connecting to something greater than myself. I was connecting to the ancestors of the land, to the culture, all of that. So to me, that's a spiritual experience. Now, that's not going to strike me sober, and that's not something that I'm going to make a group based upon, but I was in my own mind connecting to things in a bigger way to help me feel a part of something, right? So I mean, even recently, I was thinking about where I'm from, and I was looking at the Native American history and the specific Native Americans the tribes that were on that land where I'm from. And when I was reading a website all about it, like I had a spiritual experience like 2 days ago doing that, where I felt the chills in my body. I felt overwhelmed with this feeling of spirit and like awe and connected to something. And then I just started hysterically crying because it was like really sad to like think about like, what happened in America. And so, but for me, that was a numinous experience. That's a spiritual experience. So I don't think it's just like joy. It's just like anger. It's a feeling inside my body. It doesn't mean like practical reality outside in the world. Like just because you're angry doesn't mean somebody is wrong or it's not a fact or whatever. Like, so to me, the spiritual experience, a numinous experience, as Jung would say, it's a feeling in my body that I get in specific times, just like I get joy at specific times, just like I get anger or disappointment, right? So to me, it's like a normal human feeling. And then everything we put on top of that is like, that becomes the dogma.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go through some of these comments. That's because Bill was on belladonna during his alcohol detox. That's why he had that experience. Yeah, I don't know if you caught the beginning, but I actually hadn't read all the things, but Kirsten read a list of like everything that he was on, and there was some bonuses for sure that I didn't know were there.
Let me actually read something right here now too. Okay, so I want to tell you about somebody who was on that same belladonna treatment. A big shout out to Kate for sending me a link to this. So, okay, so this is another person who was on the Towns Lambert belladonna alcoholism cure at the Towns Hospital. The same cure, we'll do cure in quotes, the same cure. By the way, he reported that the cure was 100% accurate. We still don't have 100% accurate cure at all for alcoholism, but Towns Hospital did. Oh, by the way, you know what's really interesting about the founder of the Towns Hospital? He was actually a salesman. He was never a doctor or a medical person. He was actually a salesman before he started Towns Hospital. And he was actually he was arrested for conning people in the stock market, went to jail, had a couple different charges against him. And then right when he got out of jail is when he started Towns Hospital. Interesting fun fact. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is another patient at the Towns Hospital. In addition to attacks from the medical profession, there were also lawsuits. On January 18th, 1916 issue of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle reported that the Towns Hospital had been ordered to pay $12,500. I don't know, maybe that's like $200,000 in today's money, I'm not sure, to Sarah A. Robertson in a wrongful death suit after her husband, Walter Robinson, had jumped to his death from a third-story window while undergoing treatment for alcoholism at the Towns Hospital. The court ruled that there had been an inadequate supervision of the patient. So I don't know what happened there. And obviously that's horrific, but you know how sometimes on psychedelics, people think that they can fly?
Yeah.
This guy on the belladonna treatment jumped out of the window and died. And then she took the hospital to court and she won.
Wow. Yeah. Never heard that story.
Me either. I read it yesterday. Kate sent it to me yesterday.
Wow.
Let's see what Kate says here.
Where is she? Bill never experienced a spiritual experience again. That's why he started taking LSD in the 50s under the care of Timothy Leary. AA members made him stop because it was a bad look for the program. Billy.
It's so weird because they're so quick to bury the origin story of how it actually. We all know it says it in the big book that it was belladonna, and it doesn't take more than a second to Google and verify that belladonna is a delirium that causes hallucinations. But if you take a delirium that causes hallucinations, you relapse. But
the whole program started that way. Yeah. Yeah, people are quick to dismiss it, and it's almost like when you bring it up, they kind of just dodge it, like they'll just jump to something else. They won't even really, it just doesn't even something that they really address. In my experience of going back and forth with people about it, it's definitely something they try to continue to hide and not something they want to talk about at all.
I certainly don't miss the cognitive dissonance. And I think that's one of the things that I'm the most grateful for now being out of AA, aside from all the time I have, is to not be like trapped in, like blocked from critical thinking, to have like a fire for critical thinking and wanting to learn all the things and understand things and get to the root of things.
Yeah. Yeah, like just being interested, like it's a topic that I'm interested, like reading, like I don't read, like that's not a thing that I do, but it's a super interesting topic to me now. And it's like you said, critical thinking, to be able to have my own opinions and learn new things versus things that were just handed to me, All right, let's go through some more comments here. Lindsay said, when my spiritual awakening, best word I can find for it, and tripped down the truth rabbit hole, I was higher than a giraffe's pussy on meth. It did not go down like the 12 steps claimed it would. All right. Trish in progress says, or asks, is a spiritual experience the same thing as a spiritual awakening? They say we'll have a spiritual awakening in step 12 because we work the 12 steps. I always confused the two when I was in it, because it was like one of those things that, I thought that I had to have the spiritual awakening by the time that I was through with my steps. Like I thought, yes, like that spiritual experience, spiritual awakening would happen as a result of doing the steps. But so I guess to me, they were the same thing. I don't know. Were they the same thing to you?
The way that I think about it is that as the spiritual experience is something that happens to you. It's the conversion experience. It's when you convert into the religion of AA, essentially, when they're talking about it in reference to their program. So Bill had his spiritual experience, his conversion into the Oxford group religion, where God's the wind he's feeling inside his body. And that was his conversion experience, his spiritual experience. And then and that resulted in his spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening is when you have the conscious, like they say in the spiritual experience part of the book. Where do they say it? It's on the second page of it. Most of us think the awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. So the way that I think about spiritual awakening is when you've had the spiritual experience that woke you up to the spiritual world or the religious world or the AA like religion, right? So now that you've been awakened to it, you've had the spiritual awakening. And so the spiritual awakening really happens that once, and then the spiritual experiences can happen over and over again. In fact, I would even argue that your spiritual maintenance, right, according to AA, you have to have your daily reprieve. You have to have, I mean, when I was in the cult within a cult that I was in San Diego, like they were saying, I need a spiritual experience every day. I need to be working with like drunks every day. I need to be working with newcomers every day. I need a spiritual experience every day. So the spiritual like awakening is more like it happens once or happens a couple of times, because it's profound, the way I see it, like a profound shift in consciousness. Like the very first time I took psilocybin and had my hero's dose by accident. You guys know the story, right? Where I accidentally ate all the mushrooms. It was before I'd ever been on Google or the internet. I didn't know what psychedelics were. And we just ate them all. And we just ate them fast because they were gross tasting. And the next thing I know, I'm no longer a human. I no longer have a body. I no longer have an identity. And when I came back from that what I now know is a hero's dose, and spent 6 months in high school integrating, like, what the fuck was that? Where was I? Who was I? Like, so I had a spiritual awakening. And ever since that spiritual awakening that I had on that psilocybin trip as like a teenager, I've seen the world differently. So it kind of woke me up to the spiritual world in a new way. And then I've had, so for me, spiritual experience is kind of like a ongoing things. And then the awakening is more like that woke me up to things. And so I've had spiritual awakenings where I feel like I'm a whole new person after. I guess I had a spiritual awakening when I left AA and realized it was baloney. It was like, whoa, okay, now I'm like awake to something else here. Or maybe that's just like an evolutionary like shift. Did anybody else have like a big shift in consciousness when they left AA and realized it was baloney? Like, whoa, I just popped out of like my own butt. Like, what happened? I was in an ideology. Yikes.
Yeah, it was like a slap in the face almost as I started to learn things. It was like I spent so much time trying to figure this shit out, thinking that this was the way that I had to save my life. And then the more information that I found out, like the more just so far from reality, thinking that this was like medical science, that this came from doctors because Dr. Silk, like, how did I get conned into one doctor's opinion and thinking that it was like the way that I had to live my life forever? But it's just then as you start to unlearn the things, I think the more that you gave yourself to that program and even like the more desperation, it's almost just like the more painful it is to find out the truth. Like you get to a point where it's funny and like you can laugh about it and all that shit. But there was a moment for myself where it just didn't feel good at all. It was like being on like punked and just feeling so just like got, you know, in the worst ways. Oh goodness. What should I don't know where we were. Is there any comment that sticks out to you?
Maybe the Mr. Pug's one. Mr. Pug. At the bottom.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Pug says, I realized that the spiritual experience they claim to have was mostly BS when I observed the way they actually behave versus what they say. Yeah, you know what's so funny? I've been thinking about this. I've actually had a very interesting morning so far. So far, I've been told to F off a couple of times by somebody who's like, I get the most interesting comments, as you might imagine. The
Yeah,
ad
I
ad
know.
hominem vibes are vibing today, as they are every day. And I just, I was like walking the other day and I was like, I think the most toxic relationship I've ever been in my entire life is the one I'm in right now with the trolls on the internet. Like
Oh,
the ones
you're
who
gonna say an AA. I was like, yeah.
no, not even in AA, because in AA I towed the line, right? I was in the middle of the boat. I was preaching, I was spitting the doctrine out. I was doing the thing. And I was a true believer. So no, in AA I had a lot of acceptance and belonging because
Mhm.
I had abandoned myself and I was preaching the ideology. So I was accepted by the group because I abandoned myself and I put the group think as my own thinking. But
Right.
no, like right now, and like this guy, yeah, he just said a couple of times, F you, F you. What did he say? Something crazy. And what he didn't realize, he's like, she was never in AA. You're an effing this, effing that. I was like, except that I met her. It was about Lily. If you guys saw my podcast episode last week on Lily, I was like, except that I met her in AA and we went to the same women's group, because he was like, you don't even know if she ever went. Like,
Oh my
you're full of
God.
shit. And I was like, oh, well, so the weirdest thing is that these people who are having these spiritual experiences and spiritual awakenings are literally the meanest people I've ever encountered in my life. Now, that's not to say that AA people are mean, right?
Right.
Most of the people in AA are not trolling strangers on the internet. This is like the small few. And I would even argue that it's the ones that AA is not working for, that that they are being misled, that AA is a solution, and therefore they're not getting the proper help that they need. That could actually help them like travel better and treat strangers better, because they have a false, like, they believe Bill's prophecy, and it's actually just like, it's believing Bill's like origin story is as crazy as if I was trying to say that my rocket ship experience was the way to heal addiction. It's like, what? No, I was rocketed into a fourth dimension on ayahuasca, and it was a vibe, and it will be one of my most, it was in my top 5 most like awesome, like awe-inspiring experiences of my life, for sure. But it's not to be institutionalized, medicalized. It's not a path for anybody else. It was just a really fucking interesting experience. Period.
Right.
Doesn't mean
Right.
anything. It doesn't mean anything about anybody else's life.
And I think another thing with the people saying stuff though that I try to remember is that if they are true believers, right, then they think what we're saying is dangerous. Like I always go back to that. It's like if they truly believe in this stuff and they think that this is the way, and they have, they're fully indoctrinated, all bought in, then it's not necessarily coming from like a mean place, right? It's just that they're so enthralled in it and they believe in it so hard that hearing anything against it is like, oh my God, you're killing people. Like I get that all the time. I'm always like, they're like, you're gonna kill someone, you're gonna prevent somebody from going to a meeting, all this stuff. And it's like, Amanda said, yes, I'm still reeling from the wake up leaving AA. It was insanely painful for a few months. Yeah, absolutely. It was for me too. And I had been gone. I had been gone for years. And it was when I started to meet people who had been further along in the deprogramming process and being like, really? Because I still thought that I was still recommending it to people because I thought that it worked for everybody else and it was a me problem. So then when I really started to understand everything, it was super painful because I was like, I have been beating myself up and just thinking that I'm such a piece of shit because I can't get this to work. And it's freaking from a belladonna trip. You know what I mean? Like when you really get down to the origin, it's just fucking wild. Let's see. It was devastating. Harry says, it was devastating when the hammer of reality came crashing down and I realized that my life, AA life, was bullshit.
100%. 100%. It's such a shatter. It's devastating is the word. Indeed. That's how it felt for me. 100%. It's a lot. I felt all the feelings at once. I felt conned. I felt scammed. I felt played. I felt dumb. I felt ashamed. I felt guilty. I felt afraid I was going to die. I felt all the feeling. I felt horrified at the things that I could suddenly see happened to me inside the system. And then I felt horrified about the things that I had done to others inside the system, like sponsoring. I felt horrible that I had sponsored anybody and told them that any of this stuff was real. It's devastating, and it's not easy. It was the devastation of leaving AA for me as a true believer was more intense than the devastation of getting sober. And getting sober was brutal, but leaving AA for me was even more brutal. It's probably the most brutal thing I've ever done is leaving Alcoholics Anonymous, because everything shatters and there is no love bombing when you leave.
Sure not. Sure not. Yeah, it is devastating. And it's one of those things, it's like people will, like, they don't understand that this isn't coming from like a place of like, AA sucks. Like there is so much emotion and passion, or at least like for me, and I feel like a lot of people who do talk about it because of those experiences, and knowing again how we've affected other people when we were in there and we were truly believing. And then just as you talk to more and more people, like, this is such a universal experience that nobody really talks about, because even when people leave, I was talking to somebody yesterday and they're like, I want to share my experience, but I feel like, it does work for some people, so I probably shouldn't talk about it. And it's like, but if you had your experience, why does just the people who it works for, like, why did they just get to share their story? And I promise you, as you go further along in your deprogramming journey and you find out like the truth, and that there's more than just emotions and it just didn't work for you, and that there's different pathways for all people, you're going to feel like a lot differently, I think, and it's just one of those things that we have been so conditioned to, even if it didn't work for us, we should still be quiet because, it works for other people and we don't want to affect other people's recovery.
I am cautious about even saying that sentence, honestly. If it worked for you, if it didn't work for you. And I would imagine that what you're meaning when you say that is if you achieved abstinence through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, or if you were abstinent from alcohol while you were inside. I don't even want to use if it worked for you or not. And the reason why I want to deconstruct from that is because it's not black and white. That's like if we look at Patty Hearst. Does anybody remember Patty Hearst? She was kidnapped. She was kept in a closet. She was tortured. She was deprived of food. She was SA'd. She was all sorts of things. But technically, she was housed because they kept her in a closet. So they're saying, well, it worked. You were sheltered. It worked. But so saying that it worked, it takes everything else away from the conversation. So, to what point? So I have been abstinent since I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, minus the ayahuasca experience I had 3 years ago, although I don't consider plant medicine to be anything to do with my drinking, right? But so I have been abstinent from alcohol since, or I haven't had a drink of alcohol since I went to rehab and since I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. But I wouldn't say that AA worked for me. I would say I got converted into a religious cult that possessed my mind, body, and soul for a decade until I popped out devastated and freaking the F out. So did it work? It's like, was Patty Hearst housed? Like, you're missing the point of the entire thing that I'm trying to say. It is harmful. Run.
Right.
It is not worth it. It doesn't work and you're worth it.
And I've been saying, like, I've gotten to the point where I've been saying, and even the people that it works for, I say, I still feel like it harms them, like that's been but it is like a process of talking about it. Cause at first it's like, well, some people say that it saves their life, and who am I to say that it didn't save their life and all this stuff. But it's like, the point that you're making there, and like kind of the point that is taking me a while to get to and to reach, is that it is harmful even for the people that it helps. And then breaking that down further from what you're saying there, and like, is it really even helps? Does that word even belong there? Right. It's just, that's like, That's like a lot to think about right now. Like that's like really like breaking it down and getting to that point of just saying that
It's not black and white. It's like, and I always bring it back to like cancer treatment and like radiation. It's like everybody knows there's harms with specific treatments. And it's maybe it's a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back or whatever. And it's
yeah,
so just to say binary black and white work doesn't work. Like I don't
yeah,
even, to me, that it misses the point of where the harm comes in. And then even for some of the people who are abstinent, and I would even argue like all of the true believers, the people on the periphery are not going to be as affected as much as the ones that are fully inside, right? And so I would argue that it is harmful for everybody who's fully indoctrinated,
yeah.
whether or not they stay abstinent.
Right. That's heavy though. That's like so like it's like in the world of just recovery landscapes and stuff. It's just it's
I
crazy.
mean, we're literally talking about a guy 91 years ago today. Your boy Bill, 91 years ago on this day, December 14th, 1934, your boy Bill had a white like drug-induced God experience. And then he pretended that he wrote steps to access this God, but without using the substances that he was on. But really, he took the steps from the Oxford group because he was proselytized into the Oxford group while he was on those hallucinogens or those, right? And so he was like, and that's the path. And there's no modern science. Like, it's like totally baloney. Like, it's like if you remember, you guys remember that game Operation where you take the little tweezers and you try to get the things out, like to get the little bone out or the organ out, and you can't hit it against the side. It's like if Tara and I had experience playing that game, and then we said we can do surgery. Yeah, we'll do medical procedures. We can do medical procedures. We have a say about medical stuff. Sure.
It's fucking wild. Like I'm having my own experience right now, like really realizing just the magnitude of everything. Oh my goodness. Trish in Progress said, I had spiritual experiences this week. After listening to your podcast, I realized I didn't need those meetings. I know the truth, but went anyways. This week I started breaking free. Congratulations, Trish. It's quite the process, as you can sure that you're experiencing and hearing. Like I've been doing this for years, and right now I feel like my head's been spinning in this episode. Just it's wild.
Yeah. I spent all day yesterday, like probably 10 hours researching this stuff because I wanted to go deeper into it for my own understanding. And I would say all yesterday I was having little spiritual experiences, if you will, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then to even see that Towns Hospital was a con artist. Like I was like, oh my God. So you got the guy who has the hospital is a salesman who just got out of jail before he launched the hospital. You have Bill, who's a salesman in the hospital, who has the same experience as his grandfather, where he's on drugs and sees God. And then he says, I have 12 steps to God, but you can't be on drugs. And actually, they're the same steps as the group that I was proselytized into when I was on those drugs. And hey, doctors prescribed my hallucination as a medical path. It's like, what?
And I can still hear him now say, well, it still saved millions.
Every time they say that, I'm like, can you please link? I was like, I hope are you referring to a randomized controlled study? If so, send your link. Or is this your opinion? And nobody ever writes back.
Yeah, because they don't know. Oh, goodness. Tony said, the biggest mistake I made in near 5 years of sobriety was going to AA and taking step 1 when I've already been sober for 20 months without AA. I wasn't fully brainwashed. It's good. You weren't.
You know, I got this comment yesterday. I actually want to read it right now because it is so in line with that one. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, yeah. This person, this was on TikTok. They say, I knew it. They knew AA was like, a con, basically. I knew it because I was or harmful. I knew it because I was sober 14 years and then started AA, so no link with actual sobriety. After a year, I left and was flooded with guilt and shame, not because of sobriety, but simply because I was conditioned to be codependent that quickly. That's the harm, people.
Got some good comments here. I guess we could just go through them quickly. I remember being at Oh, sorry. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Netta, we'll call it for short. I hope that's okay. I remember being at family events and saying some program thing, and I didn't understand the blank looks or even sympathy stare I got. They knew they were looking at a brainwashed out there person.
Totally. It is so bananas. And there's like a thought-stopping slogan for everything. It just doesn't even make any sense. Live and let live.
Oh man. Do you want to read that one?
Mr. Pug says, "What up, Mr. Pug?" Mr. Pug says, "Absolutely. Once I gave up hope that there was anything of potential in the ideology and that it was absolute rubbish, there was no going back. Once I saw that AA Emperor has no clothes." Totally. It's like really for what it was for me. And a lot of people say the same thing. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I've heard people like Lily on my most recent podcast talk about like the people who see it and then go back to AA do often what's like half measures AA, where they really take what they want and leave the rest because they realize it's baloney, but they still go back. And so, yeah, once you see it, you can't unsee it. 100%. It's the emperor has no clothes. Society still is saying emperor has great clothes. This is a great method. And then the rest of us are like, bro's naked. Like, are we not allowed to talk about the fact that you guys are all like, you say that we're insane because we leave? We're the, like, in reality, we are the sane ones here. We're like, there's literally zero science in it. Emperor's naked and it's mythology. It's as if we might as well just ask Santa to keep us like sober. Like, what?
Totally. Absolutely. Amanda Parker said, I cried for weeks because I knew I had inadvertently hurt others by promoting AA as the safest spaces around. When I left, I found out that my best friend was a predator, and I had told so many women that he was the safest person I knew. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. I mean, that's the rooms and the environment around the rooms is such a breeding ground for predators and for predators to succeed and be in like so able to be in touch with so many people because of sober time and sponsorship, right? Like the fact that they've been sober for X amount of years and helped so many men get sober, it becomes a validation for they're a safe person and somebody that you can trust. You know, it's the environment of the place. It's awful. I didn't realize this was this long. Sorry, David. One of the biggest challenges for someone who has years or decades in AA and steps into a healing path like psychedelics is the inherited dogma and shame that often arises up in the beginning of their journey. You're just getting high. You're relapsing. You're a liar. 1,000 meetings of liar, cheat, and thief. A drug is a drug. Yeah, absolutely. Often shows up. 1,000 sin-based inventories. Where was I selfish, self-seeking? Totally. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Like they say, even in the rooms, they'll say a head full of AA and a belly full of beer. Like once that's in you, you're never the same, especially in the beginning when you're, trying to get out of there and trying different ways. It's haunting to say the least.
And you have to do some little cognitive dissonance mental gymnastics where you are in denial of the fact that Bill Wilson, the savior of Alcoholics Anonymous, did LSD at 20-ish years sober at the VA hospital, right? So you have to like put that actual fact out of your mind so that Bill is still sober and you're not, even though you did psychedelics, but Bill did. And I don't mean his belladonna white light experience. I mean his LSD experience, like 20 years into his sobriety. You have to put that fact over here, do a bunch of little mental gymnastics, and then tell somebody they relapsed if they did a psychedelic, even though in your mind, Bill is sober and he's the prophet. But it's like, that's why I'm always like, Bueller? Like, is anybody fucking home?
Yeah.
No, we're not. But that's the thing. Like, we're not home when we're in it, right? A lot of us. I mean, I knew that Bella did LSD when I was in AA, but I still felt like psychedelics would be a relapse. And it's so funny. I told my one of my sponsees was like, I want to do ayahuasca. I'm like, that's fine. We'll have to start your day count over if you do, though, because that's technically a relapse. But do what you want to do. I'm not telling you not to do anything. And if you do, have fun. Have a great time and come back and let's. And if you want to come back and work with me, I'm here for it, but that would be starting your day count again. That's literally what I told her. I've since made amends. And it's so funny because after I left AA, then I went and did ayahuasca and she's like, I can't believe you're doing it before me. I'm like, I know, your sponsor went rogue. And then she did ayahuasca too. And then we came together, both as AA escapees talking about it. And it's not like I had plans to do lots of, y'all, I did psilocybin in the 90s and I did ayahuasca in 1 week a couple of years ago. Like, I'm not seeking out these experiences. I just don't consider them to have anything to do with anything. These are about expanding consciousness. They're not about being trapped in the hopeless condition, right, of alcohol.
Do you want to take this one?
Katie, what's up, Katie? It says 3 weeks out, and this is a rough ride, 100%. Going to gift myself your course, Kirsten. My head feels super fragile. I think I still believe I'm an addict. It took me a long time to get the alcoholism, the disease idea. I literally spent, y'all, I've studied this stuff so much. Way before I ever opened my mouth on any of this, I did so much research because I needed to know, I needed to find proof that it was all bullshit so that I could set my fears to ease, put my fears at ease. And so I left AA April 6, 2020, the beginning of the pandemic. And I spent the first several months it was the COVID, right? And the first couple of months I was in Bali and they closed the beach. So I couldn't go. I used to go to the beach all the time in Bali with the dog and stuff. So anyways, I had all this time on my hand because the island was closed. The beach was closed. Bali never really shut down. I mean, the airport shut down, but not like the stores and stuff. Anyways, I took all these therapy and like mental health professional courses. I'm not a therapist, but I took all the courses that were about addiction recovery, the nervous system, neurodivergence, all of these things. I took all of the addiction courses I could find that were for therapists and mental health providers. And as a therapist, I think you're supposed to get 30 units, 30 hours every 3 years to keep your certification or your credentials updated. So 30 every 3 years. I was doing like 50 hours a week or like 80 hours a week of these courses that you're supposed to do 30 in 3 years on, right? I just kept going through and buying every single online course I could find and taking them all and just like hours, like 10, 12 hours a day, just going. I was like, I have to figure out like, what are all of the people saying here? Because my brain is telling me I'm going to die. I have a disease. It's fatal, progressive, all of this stuff. And it just that can't be reality. I'm not powerless. Like, it's baloney. Obviously I got sold a lie, but I needed to, for me, I needed to intellectually really understand what all the people thought. And I was so disappointed because I couldn't find any like professionals in the field that I respected who were saying that it's okay and safe to leave AA other than my therapist. Right. And so that's part of my motivation to my mom's like, what if you stopped calling it dissenting? What if you started calling it something that isn't tied to AA? I'm like what, Mom? And she's like clarity. I'm like, yeah, like recovery clarity. And so yeah. I couldn't find people that seemed to be experts in the field of addiction, speaking with clarity and modern science on addiction recovery. And so I was like, well, then I got to do the work to figure this out. I'm going to go get like a master's essentially in all this shit, figure it all out, do the due diligence, the deep dive, so I can be really clear. And that really helped me. Not everybody has that time. It's also not the pandemic anymore where everybody's kind of trapped inside. So that's not everybody's path. But for me, as somebody who loves learning and loves then teaching what I learned, it was important for me to invest the time into educating myself on different things. And my conclusion is that AA is completely mythology. And not only is it mythology, it's harmful. And not only that, it literally, in my mind, where I stand today, it has nothing to do with addiction recovery. It literally is it's a cult. It's coercive control. So when I say cult, I mean it's coercive control. There's indoctrination. There's an ideology that's going to possess you if you're a true believer. And then it's a religion. It's a path to God. And it's not to say that you can't use a cult or a religion to get sober.
Right.
There's a very small, like, effective rate of that. But something like Sinclair method or something like any of the other paths to recovery, we look at like smart recovery, right? Smart recovery uses modern science and teaches coping skills so that when you feel like you want to drink, that you know how to cope with your emotional world. That to me is like a recovery path. You're recovering to not having to use alcohol harmfully anymore. Or Sinclair method, where it slowly, gradually over time reduces your desire for drinking and it unlearns in your brain the pattern of drinking. So there are paths that help the brain actually recover from addiction and build up the emotional resilience, if you will, to like live sober, where AA does not have any of that. It literally has none of that. It's literally a religion. and and you know what? Being in a cult religion, yeah, I stayed abstinent being in a cult religion. So it's not that it
Right.
isn't effective for some people if you're looking only binary at did you stay sober? But I had already decided to be sober before I ever showed up at AA. Honestly, I had decided to be sober, and that's why I went to rehab. And I showed up at AA 30 days sober. And yes, AA did help me. There was community. There were things there that helped me. And things like community are evidence-based. Community is great for recovery, but there's community that's non-harmful and community that's not in a religion. You can join a religion if you want. You can become religious if you want. And that might help you with abstinence. But it's not required and it's not the only path. And yeah.
Yeah, totally. Oh, wait, sorry. I hit that one twice. Kate said it saves millions is a slogan, thought stopping cliche. Sorry, I meant to hit this one, Kate, because it's important. Kate said, just throwing out there for future thoughts, but codependency is not a scientific psychological term. It's a 12-step term. Yes. And thanks to Melanie Beattie, she made a fortune on that. It's insane. Here's another one from Price. He said, my friend is too scared to admit she had a small relapse because she knows she'll be judged and coddled. And I totally get it. Yeah, the whole like stand in front of everybody, get your 24-hour chip or your 24-hour keychain, and then everybody treats you like you have lost everything that you've learned up until that point. You know, like you're just like brand new and know nothing. It is, yeah, I hated that. You want to read that one?
Why don't you take this one and then I want to read all of the stuff that I prepared.
Cursed.
Nerd alert, coming through.
But you're you, and that's good. All right, Tanya said, that's me right now. I still go to meetings, but I have struggled with seeing some of the fake stuff and not believing in everything that the fellowship preaches. Yeah, I think once you start to see it, then you start to see it a little bit more. And then it becomes to the point where we've described it before as once you see Santa is not real, there's no going back, you know. All right, what you got, girl?
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk more about Jung because Bill, the entire could you take this comment off the screen?
Oh.
The entire basis for Alcoholics Anonymous, the proof, like the origin story, is like rested on this idea of a spiritual experience is the solution, right? And for me, that's more about Bill trying to figure out the Oxford group had been helping people get sober through the Oxford group for a while now, including Ebby, obviously. And so that was already happening. And Bill was trying to like come up with his own scheme, essentially, because he wants to create his own thing. He's trying to connect like his religious experience with sobriety. And so he creates that he says that his spiritual experience on Belladonna and all that, like 91 years ago today, is like the core of how his system is valid. So let's look at, and that's a quote. He kind of quotes in a way or references Jung without saying Jung. Like Jung isn't specific. Carl Jung isn't specifically mentioned in the big book, as far as I recall. And he certainly never endorsed AA. But Bill borrows from his authority because Jung was like a renowned psychiatrist, medical doctor, right? So let's look at Jung versus Bill, round one. So the meaning of spiritual experience. Jung says it is a numinous experience. We talked about numinous in the beginning of this podcast. Psychological, autonomous, unreliable if literalized, meaningful only in context. It is a signal from the psyche, not a verdict from God. It's interpreted symbolically, not believed literally. Again, I loved my rocket ship experience on psychedelics. It does not mean it's a fact or a literal prescription for others. Jung repeatedly warned, and this is so crucial, this line right here. The moment a numinous or spiritual experience is literal truth or is taken as literal truth, pathology begins. He's literally saying if you believe the spiritual experience is literal truth, which Bill does and preaches, and that's the whole foundation for everything, that's where pathology begins. Jung, everything that I've studied about Jung, which is y'all listening, watching, might know a lot more about me than Jung, and definitely let a sister know about it then. So Bill's saying his white light experience became literal proof of foundational myth, moral authority, and like a program requirement. It was treated as evidence of God, validation of his path or the steps, justification for surrender, and a template others must follow. This is a huge contradiction with what Jung believed. Jung warned about archetypal possession. So we've talked about ideological possession, at least on Sobriety Bestie podcast before, and that comes from Jung. Let me know if you remember any of the talks I did on ideological possession, where I was like possessed by the ideology of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was running my life and my mind and my thoughts and my feelings and all the things. That idea of ideological possession actually comes from Jung. And so Jung's lifelong warning is that the greatest danger is when the ego identifies with an archetype or an ideology. He is warning against identifying with ideologies. Bill is saying, believe my ideology or else you'll die. So Jung explicitly warned against prophets, founders, chosen messengers, people who believe they carried the universal truth. He called this ego inflation, archetypal or ideological possession, or what was called like a mana personality. And so Bill centered AA's origin story on his experience. He positioned it as a turning point for millions, and it became he became the symbolic father of the movement. So he's codifying his interpretation while he's on these hallucinogens as the one and only way. Yeah. So Jung is all about individuation. My understanding of Jung's work, it was all about individuation. And Bill's path is all about submission. It's like the literal opposite. So Jung's life work is about individuation, differentiation, self-trust, conscious integration. Like you have your conscious and your unconscious, like integrating personal meaning and psychological maturity. The goal is a person who could stand in relationship to the unconscious without being possessed by it. The AA structure is powerlessness, surrender of self-trust, authority transfer, moral inventory under supervision, and dependence on the group and sponsor. Oops, I lost my place. I mean, the more I look into it, I'm like, it's the opposite. AA is the opposite of individuation. Jung believed that healing increases psychological sovereignty. AA teaches healing requires permanent surrender. This is just another contradiction. I have more. I'm going to pause there before I keep reading. But the more that I looked into what Jung's entire body of work looked like, it's called like cherry picking, right? When you look at like a bunch of data and you pick out the one piece that proves you're valid. So when I looked at Jung's entire work, which I'm still a beginner at, I literally spent 10 hours on this yesterday. So I'm new, but I wanted to kind of have a little bit more understanding before I went into this live stream with you. and you might know a lot more than me. And if you do, please, whether you're watching the replay or here live, let us know in the comments, especially where I'm wrong. I love being corrected. So it's not, I don't know it all. Please, I love to learn too. So I don't get offended when I'm corrected, unless somebody's coming from the AA ideology, like AA saves lives. I'm like, okay, thanks for coming. So to me, this is fascinating that Bill's taking one piece of one sentence, one kernel of truth, one moment in time of something that Jung said, and making it be the basis for his entire thing, and then trying to get some street cred by associating with Jung, publishing the letter that he wrote and the letter that Jung wrote back in one of the books, A Comes of Age or something. And it's like, no, bro, like his entire thing is like the opposite of what you're doing. And it reminds me of when I learned that, and maybe you saw this video on my channel about how AA appropriated the Serenity Prayer. A lot of us, if not all of us, heard the Serenity Prayer in Alcoholics Anonymous. It turns out the writer, the guy who wrote the Serenity Prayer, was actively against Frank Bookman, who was the leader of the Oxford group where Bill got sober. So to me, it's all this like appropriating these like people and then taking it the opposite way.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking wild.
Okay, well, I'll continue then. Let's just keep going. So Jung refused universal solutions, rejected one-size-fits-all spirituality, treated the psyche as unique, and believed in symbols change meaning by individual. He explicitly opposed institutionalized salvation, required belief system, and standardized spiritual paths. Bill universalized his personal experience, psychedelics. He codified it into the steps, and he framed it as life or death. The embedded thread is jails, institutions, or death, obviously. Essentially, to drink is to die. Rarely have we seen a person fail. Jung never threatened people with death for psychological non-compliance. This is coercive control. It's not Jungian psychology. Jung would never have required a numinous or spiritual experience. He believed numinous or spiritual experiences happened when the psyche needs them. They can't be manufactured. They can't be demanded. They cannot be morally ranked. I think a lot of people feel a type of way about not having had these spiritual experiences or numinous experiences in AA. And Jung would agree that you shouldn't feel bad about, like, it's not that kind of a thing. But Bill's legacy, of course, is that the spiritual awakening is required. The educational variety is still framed as necessary, hierarchies of recovery, and those with the experience, without the experience, are not surrendered enough, not honest enough, or not something enough, right? Jung would call this forcing archetypal material into consciousness, a recipe for neurosis or psychosis. I have more in my nerdy files, but I'll pause.
It is all true though. All the how Bill took all of that and just made it the standard, like they said, he standardized the experience. And yeah, I mean, it's still here. It's 91 years later from that thing. It's still rampant everywhere. I was just looking at a bunch of sober houses and like all of their requirements to go to meetings and get a sponsor, like still here in 2025, that is the most recommended pathway. And then as I've learned today, like it wasn't just, he had a little belladonna, like there, it's just the more that I think about it, the more messed up it really is, like to think of how everything is based off of this. It's not just like people try to make it seem like, oh, A is just a choice and you're just, it's a choice among many. And they say that they don't have a monopoly and you can choose. It's not really a choice though. Like when you go for help, when you go to a treatment center, even if they offer other things, like majority of people that are coming to carry the message come from AA. You might get one other time. Like it's just still so dominant. And when you just see the foundation is even worse than what I thought, it's insane.
100%. The more I dig, the more I realize like how backwards it is and how no wonder why they have to say no outside literature.
Seriously though, literally, like the more that you're reading, Oh my
And
God.
if you leave, you're insane. But when you leave, you're like, wait a minute.
It's just, I'm like speechless almost. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I like went deep yesterday and I was like, whoa, it's like the more I look, the more I realize it's worse than I thought. I didn't know the town's hospital was kind of like set up as a sham.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
they had like, there's more about the town's hospital too, that like more receipts I have. Let's see. Something about like they had said that it was their proprietary, their belladonna, their town's Lambert belladonna treatment was proprietary, whatever. But when it turned out that they actually took it from somebody else, like it actually wasn't, according to what I was reading yesterday. This is all alleged. I wasn't there, right? And it's hard to really know what happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Was there a white light experience? Was it all a scam? Like, meaning like what I was reading yesterday was indicating that not only was Towns Hospital, where Bill got sober, was he a salesman who did this like fraud, embezzlement in the stock market. I think his company was only around like less than a week or 2 weeks, and then he got arrested because he was doing his stock market business in a way that was illegal. So then he went to jail and had a couple cases against him, and then he wanted to start a hospital for a cure for alcoholism. So he found a doctor and they started it, but then somebody else said, hey, I had that belladonna recipe first, that cure first. And then he's saying the cure is 100%, but even today, 100 years later, we still don't have 100% cure. So so we couldn't have had it 100 years ago if we still don't have it today. You know what I mean? Like, obviously that wasn't true. So it's like whatever way you hold it, whatever way you look at AA, you look at the origin story, you look at Bill, you look at the steps, you look at reality, you look at the science, whatever way you look at it, it's like, and the more you look at it, the more it's just like, I mean, you might as well just said, you need to create a relationship with the tooth fairy, and that's going to be your medical solution. And here's how you get close. Here's how you get tight with the tooth fairy.
Honestly, I mean, seriously. And then even this comment here, Meg said, even a SMART meeting I went to was run by an ex-AA following the SMART format, but throwing out AA cliches. Big turnoff. Sad how AA infiltrates. And it's everywhere, even in non-AA spaces. Here we are, and again, I know I've said this 20 times already in this stream, but going back to the roots today of everything, it's just, again, I'm just like baffled kind of really understanding it more and thinking about it more, because yeah, like I thought about it for a second, but not on this scale. And now going and thinking about it on this scale, I feel worse about it than I ever did. Honestly. I really do.
Yeah, it's so backwards. I'm curious, anybody who's watching the replay, we appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here. I would love to hear what you think in the comments. Did you have a spiritual experience? What do you think about spiritual experiences? What do you think about Bill's spiritual experience? And what do you think about an individual's psychedelic or hallucination becoming medicalized and institutionalized? Jung was against institutionalizing the numinous experiences. It's meant to be a feeling. Like, it's meant to be the numinous experience, the spiritual experience, is a feeling of a connectedness to something greater than yourself. Fine. That is a human emotion, a human feeling, whatever you want to call it. There are neurotransmitters. There's a biochemical experience inside the body that is occurring. It may be accompanied by, often for me, it's accompanied by a feeling of the goosebumps, or as my Australian friends say, the goosies. So I might have the goosies while I'm thinking of connectedness to things, like connectedness to ancestors or higher power or whatever. And so that is a real experience for me, but my numinous experience is not to be institutionalized. That's anti-Jungian psychology. He would never want that. So for Bill to take this idea from Jung and then say that that's the fact, he's actually like breaking the rule. Like, as he's like, the way he's doing it, it's like it's crazy pills. It's like, No, he never said you take your personal spiritual experience and institutionalize and medicalize it. Bill's doing that. Bill is medicalizing his belladonna trip by saying that you need to have this God experience that I had, but you can't do belladonna. That'd be a relapse. You have to do my steps to God. That are actually the steps that Ebby and the other Oxford group members were giving me while I was on the belladonna, but I'll pretend that they're mine.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It's like,
yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of just sitting here like in it right now, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously I've known AA is not for everybody, and I've known that AA is harmful even to the people that it helps. You know, I've come to that realization, but to really just look at everything for what it is, like you said, when you're looking at whatever angle you look at it from, and I just have to say, how the fuck is this still the dominant shit? Like how, and despite everything that we talked about today, people will ignore it and say, but it saves lives, so who cares?
Or the favorite one, if you don't like it, don't go.
Right. Like, definitely not that simple. Definitely not that fucking simple.
You want to toss up some comments?
Yeah. We just did that Mags one. We'll do Amanda's next. Amanda Parker said, I'm really grateful to find y'all. I didn't know a fraction of this history. I heard AA speak in a business network meeting last week. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I learned, Kirsten is very well researched, and I learn new shit all the time. So it's pretty.
Amanda, I met, well, I didn't meet her. I was a speaker at an AA meeting, like maybe 2012 or something like that. I was a speaker, and this person, this visitor, out of town visitor, came in the meeting. I didn't even see them in the meeting. And when they left, they gave the secretary their number for me. And when I got home and I called the number, it turned out it was like this very famous, like A-list actress. I know who she was. I know what she looked like. I just literally never saw her in the meeting. She was sitting in the back of the meeting. Anyway, I called her, and as soon as I was on the phone with her, I realized right away who it was. I saw her name written down that I called, and then I was like, oh my God, this is that celebrity. And she was saying she was on her book tour and she was promoting her new book. And she told me she deliberately put AA language all throughout the book so that her tribe would know that she's in the group too. She's like, that's how I can let people know, like, where I'm at and what I believe and what's true and like what works for me without having to like break my anonymity. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I think about that. I'm like, you speak Coltonese, you spread the Coltonese in your book, you use the slogans, people.
Yeah, that's wild. And they will know it. We will, when we see it, we know it,
Totally.
It's wild. Nadine said, I had a spiritual awakening utilizing psilocybin, realizing everything I need is within me. Yes, absolutely, my girl. Absolutely.
Blue Butterfly, what's up, Blue Butterfly? Great to see you here today. Reminds me of an L. Ron Hubbard bridge to total freedom. Totally. It's all just BS. He and Bill are both psychopaths looking for power and money. You're not wrong. There's a lot of truth to that. I feel like, yeah. And the thing about L. Ron Hubbard is he was like a sci-fi writer. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't mind these groups, these random fanatical fantasies. But the thing is that they're passed off as like real and true, especially like AA is passed off as like a medical solution that your therapist will like essentially recruit you to or whatever.
Trish in Progress said, they also say take what you need and leave the rest. They sure do. Emily in the South said, I think so many of us are seeking a support system after all the bridges we burned and are in need of deep healing from trauma from others and our self-inflicted trauma. Yeah, and then we go to AA.
Yeah, I had a lot of trauma to heal that I wasn't even quite totally aware of when I got to sobriety. And that was a huge part of my early sobriety journey. And even later in sobriety, like, many years into sobriety is, I feel like my childhood trauma wasn't really accessible to be healed until I was about 5 years sober. And I went through like another, what felt like dark night of the soul around, 5 years sober. And I met a lot of people saying something similar, that somewhere between 4 and 6 years sober, there was another huge, like in AA, they'd call it like emotional bottom. But really, I feel like at that point, I was stable. My nervous system was like centered. I had overcome my anxiety disorders. I was feeling comfortable in my skin. I did a lot of work outside of AA, a lot of mindfulness and meditation. I very like actively and diligently worked to overcome my anxiety disorders. What's weird is that like all my doctors told me it wasn't possible to overcome anxiety. And I was like, I just have to believe that's all BS, because I can't live like this. I can't wake up every day in an anxiety attack, right? So I just kept, learning from different, literally gurus in India, and like reading books and stuff, and practicing nervous. I didn't know the term nervous system regulation back then, but I was learning how to regulate my nervous system. And so, yeah. And so once I was kind of more stabilized in my nervous system, it felt like my childhood trauma was like knocking on my door to be healed. I also did this course that was about primal therapy. Basically, you ever heard of the primal scream? You're like screaming. We're like literally in a padded basement, like this whole, it was fucking wild, but I did. But any time that we go into our childhood trauma and do like major healing work, like it can be pretty wild, right? And so, yeah, I had a lot to work through. I had a lot to like, I've worked and continue to work really hard to be as authentic as I can. And I was under the delusion the entire time I was in AA. A lot of that time I felt like I was being authentic. I didn't know I was possessed by AA ideology, as Jung would call it. So AA ideology was ruling my mind and my life, but I felt like I was authentic. And now I'm like, whoa, bro. So now I kind of, it's been a new, like, the exit costs of AA are real, and healing from the AA trauma, if you will, like were immense, and are for a lot of us, can be brutal, devastating. As somebody, I think Harry put that earlier today. And it's a lot, but also it's not all at once, it's all like I guess awakening. I don't want to use AA's terminology, but it's like, I love healing and evolving because I love continuing to open up to new pockets of freedom. So that's why I always frame everything for myself. My chosen perspective is like, I've been saying this for like over a decade. It's like my mantra. I'm on team freedom, meaning I always want to keep doing the things that are going to keep helping me get free. Yeah. So I like, literally, that's like how I see it. And my chosen like perspective is like to be courageous. I want to keep being courageous so that I can keep evolving. I can keep accessing more parts of myself. I can keep feeling comfortable in my skin, or seeing the world in a more evolved way, or whatever it is. So I feel like for me specifically, I had a lot of healing to do, and I know a lot of us do. And I hear that in your comment. There was also a lot of the trauma that I endured with AA. I'm still sorting through some of that, what I would call a PTSD, or like religious trauma. And the religious trauma piece, I'm reading another book. Oh my God. It's interesting. I'm like halfway through it. I'll tell you guys about it later. When Religion Hurts You. So the religious trauma piece for me is the outsourcing my agency to, I wasn't religious when I got to AA. So this idea of having to abdicate myself, or to surrender my thoughts and my agency and my autonomy to like a supreme being, or to a God, to my sponsor, to a doctrine, to an ideology. Like, to me, that's incredibly abusive. Like, to be told if I don't do that, I'm going to die. I'm still rewiring my brain so that I don't pray for guidance, so that I just kind of set my mind to, I don't know. It's like nuanced where I'm at now in my healing from that. But I've heard from a lot of people in the comments a feeling of just how harmful it is to be outsourcing our agency, whether it's to a higher power, or a sponsor, or the big book, or to the fellowship, or to the ideology of 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous. So to me, that's incredibly harmful, that instead of just deciding for myself, trusting myself, making decisions for myself, being a go-getter like I was before I got sober, it was, and yeah, of course I had a drinking problem and I needed help for that. But then to be trained, to be conditioned in my mind, to literally change my brain through AA ideology, the indoctrination process, to be disabled from my critical thinking, disabled from self-trust, disabled, and to not even see it. So there's a huge, like I would call religious trauma piece there where I am, what do we call it? I remember that word I just learned, that it's diminution. It's a new word for me, where myself has to lose its priority and I have to put the priority, principles over personalities. The priority is the ideology. And to me, that's incredibly harmful. And I think that that's the piece that nobody like really appreciates when they're in AA. When they come at me saying AA is not harmful, I'm like, actually, that's been very damaging for me in my own life. I can see exactly how that kind of conditioned thinking, it disabled my self-esteem. It disabled so much for me. It disabled my critical thinking, disabled my self-trust in ways where I couldn't even see it. So it was insidious, right? Cunning, baffling, powerful. And yeah, I think that that's the piece that doesn't get enough airtime that I think a lot of us are navigating. I have a lot of empathy for those of us who are trying to get our agency back and realizing that our brains literally have been changed to abdicate, to surrender our agency.
Absolutely. And I will say that my brain was messed up and altered way more from that program than it ever was from chaotic drug use. I can say that with 100% certainty. For sure. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
Why, yes. Okay. So Bill took one sentence, one idea, one concept, and built an ideology Jung would have actively opposed, likely. Jung saw spiritual experience as a psychological event that must never be literalized or universalized. Bill Wilson literalized his experience, universalized it, and then turned it into a moral and survival, our life depends upon it, a survival requirement, which is the exact danger Jung spent his life warning against. So Jung worked to protect individuals from this ideological possession, and Bill built a system that institutionalized it. That's a Bill Boozle right there. And then he's trying to use Jung as credit that his system works. And it's just like.
And you'll always see a stepper try and like say something about it, but what they say doesn't even, like, learning more about it, it's like that's not even close to what any of it was about. They try to sound all smart though. Nadine said the spiritual bypassing was one of the most harmful parts of AA for me. I would agree.
Yeah, certain feelings are not allowed. It's like, bro, I'm a human, and other feelings are mandatory, like gratitude, right? Get into God's world. Kate says, my biggest healing is going back to rationality and giving up any ideas of spirituality. I found peace this way. That reminds me of a book I'm about to read. I'm like the comedy show. I am going to be called the librarian bestie.
You need to
It's called Rationality. Kate, I haven't read it yet, but that's literally the book I'm about to read. Anyway, maybe we'll vote some of these. Are you guys in the book club yet? The Deprogram book club. It's free inside the Deprogram Lounge. But there's all sorts of books that I want to read to continue my evolution. And not all of them are deprogramming. Some of them are just expanding my mind in ways that I hadn't even occurred to me before I was indoctrinated into AA and then left.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, what else is out there when you realize that truth isn't the truth. And it's like I'm not a reader. The fact that I've read the few books that I read is because finding out that, okay, the truth that you thought was so true that you literally fought and nearly lost your life to because you believed it so much is fucking bullshit. So what else is, and it's one of those things that it really does open up your critical thinking in a way that, well, for me, it just wasn't there before, and I still have a lot to learn, a lot to discover. And it's awesome to even know it's a possibility before, because before you're just handed an identity, handed this is how you got to live your life, this is what you got to do, and then realizing that really like it's up to me and I can navigate this in whatever path that I want. There is no set path that any of us have to go, you know? I mean, I think that's pretty fucking wonderful compared to thinking that you have to do it this way or you're gonna die. The opposite's pretty awesome. I'd say. Mm-mm. Mm. Downtown Tasty said, cults notoriously indoctrinate vulnerable people. Who is more vulnerable than someone getting sober? I would have to agree, especially just from what society makes us think that we are and like what we think that we are when we're walking into those spaces. You know, it's wild.
You know what is crazy town? Kate in the comments, let me know where this part I didn't memorize, but I read it yesterday from something that Kate sent, which was Charles Towns of Towns Hospital, where Bill got sober 91 years ago today, allegedly had the spiritual experience. I believe what he wanted to do, and he passed a law, like he was trying to like pass like legislation that ended up being changed. I believe what he wanted to do is he wanted to take drug addicts and Kate, help me out if what he wanted to put them to death. Is that what it was? He wanted to segregate them and like kill them. Something totally in like bananas and backwards. So maybe Kate can help me or whoever read that yesterday. I don't know if anybody else read that. I should actually get that link and like put it in here so you guys can know what I'm talking about. I'll do that right now. Here it is if you want to see what I'm talking about that I read yesterday. And if you go in there, if you look up that there's a book that's mentioned in there, I went through and you can read it for free because it's in the preview on Amazon. The page is about the Towns Hospital. It's like horrifying. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that.
But yeah, cults notoriously indoctrinate vulnerable people. Who is more vulnerable than somebody getting sober? You know, so something that I really, really don't like, and I understand it because I have so much empathy for the perspective of an AA believer because I was one. I get it. I can see it. I know where you're coming from. I get the vibe. I can catch the vibe. But there's this idea that seems to be like, you know, some of the AA ideology is like invisible, right? It's not explicitly said, but it kind of goes without saying, although your sponsor might say it directly to you. And there's this idea that it's okay to lie to the newcomers. It is okay to like do things harmful to the newcomers for their own good. It's a cult principle of the ends justify the means. Even yesterday on Instagram, or I saw it this morning, I got some really bananas backwards comment. And I'm like, I get why this person is saying this. And I think this is so harmful. So this person says, and I think that they're like agreeing with me for the most part in like my about AA is harmful. They said, a person's thinking on day one probably shouldn't be trusted, but with time and some work on yourself, you will absolutely trust yourself to do right. The idea that it's okay to ever tell anybody that they can't trust their thinking, I don't agree with that. Like, under what world are you living where you think you know better than somebody else and that you can lie and coerce them because it's for their own good? That's a cult world. Like, that's not like a fair opinion of like a vulnerable person, that you need to be the authority on them when you're when you yourself are a random person in a church basement. Right. Now, there are non-harmful paths to recovery, like in Sinclair method. You don't have to believe anything. You take a pill an hour before you drink. You don't have to believe any outdated ideologies. Nobody is superior to you, and you can get professional advice from your doctor. And I know not always all doctors know all the things or are, you know, they're not perfect, right? But the idea that it's okay as a random church basement goer that you get to lie or coerce or manipulate new vulnerable people because you believe it's for your own good, I don't buy that. I mean, I think that's a common way of thinking, that it's okay to just do whatever you need to do to the newcomer because it's for their because you know better than them. And it just feels very arrogant and harmful and disgusting to me, honestly.
Okay, well, it's all in the name of, they do it in the name of saving their life, and that the whole like your best thinking got you here, that you have this broken thinking. I mean, that is the common thought, is that when somebody walks in those rooms, they have nothing to offer other than the reminder of the beginning of what it's like for the rest of us, right? Otherwise, like what they say, they, until they've worked the steps, they have nothing to bring to. In a lot of spaces, you know, not all 12-step groups are the same, but in the places I was, they had nothing to offer. That was, everybody thought that. And it is gross, you know. I mean, it's but that is the culture. Is that, what is it, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth? I mean, how many slogans? I'm sure there's multiple slogans that basically insinuate all of that. Sit down, shut up, and listen.
If you doubt the program, it's proof of your disease. You're not allowed to doubt. You're not allowed to question. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to even be intellectual. You're not allowed there. And that's okay, because it's for your own good. And to even be in the mentality of it's okay to tell you can't trust your thinking, cotton at it, you don't get to talk, you don't get to answer questions. If you don't think you have a problem, that's proof of your problem. All of that to me is incredibly abusive. It's incredibly abusive. But there's the cult mentality of, yeah, it's for your own good. The ends justify the means. I'm saving lives, therefore this is okay.
Right.
So the people doing the harm don't even recognize the harm that's being created, or that they are facilitating it.
Yeah, and it's that hard ass culture too. Like, you're supposed to kind of be rough and tough, because you know it's that mentality that addicts, they get enabled, all that stuff. And I don't mean to use the word addicts, but I'm just using their language. That mentality is that they don't know anything, and that you have to be rude to them because they're going to try and take advantage of you, because that's what they do. Like, there's this whole persona that once you walk in those rooms and you are one of them, they think they know everything about you, and that you have these manipulative ways, and if you're given an entire personality when you walk in there, you're given an entire identity. Like, when I was in my early 20s, that became everything that I was everything that they told me I was. You know,
Yeah.
I had no time to develop my own personality.
Can we just kind of pop quickly through all the comments?
Yes, I don't know where I lost.
I wish we were both able to drive so that I could put them on too.
I think
Bob says, I hate that somehow those people think Bill created doing an inventory or apologizing or any of the other things people have been doing for so many years. 100% they're religious steps. And there's nothing wrong with religion or religious steps, to be clear. I'm not suggesting that the steps are wrong or bad. They're just not for alcohol recovery. They're for religion. Like, I just want that to be clear. Informed consent, you are going to a religion. This is a religious program. It's religious conversion. It is not recovery. It's not modern science for addiction recovery. Blue Butterfly says, or that because we drank alcohol too much at some point, we need to have a program that forces us to do these things. Exactly. You make up an identity. I'm an alcoholic. I'm forever an alcoholic. Therefore, I need to forever subjugate myself to this oppressive system of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Katie Ann Alex plus dog says, that's so true, Tara. Nothing to offer. I've been in that position so much, relapse, etc. And it's such a horrible, powerless position. It is. I mean, you're already feeling like shit, and then they beat you down and make you feel even worse because they love you. Don't worry, it's all out of love. Nadine said, when I questioned, it was just my disease trying to kill me, fear-mongering, indoctrination to submission.
Yeah, we get manipulated into submitting. And anytime we ask a question, well, me and Nadine, when I ask questions, I was told that was my denial. And stop trying to be smart. You can't outthink it. And you just need to basically do it. And subjugate your will, your life, your thinking, your time, all of it to the cause. Harry says, good news. AA membership has dropped 20%. while the population has increased by 30%. In short, to quote the 12 and 12, AA's death warrant has been signed. Kate says, Towns of Towns Hospital also helped draft the 1914 Boykin Act. Tara, look it up because it is against harm reduction. Yeah.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
I definitely will check it out. Blue Butterfly. Sorry, I took a hit off camera. Blue Butterfly said, "You are guilty the second you walk into the rooms." 100%.
Tony says, if only therapists, doctors, and courts would actually research AA in the big book before they send someone to this rubbish. 100%. They are complicit in the harm and they don't know it. And a lot of them will get actively defensive if you point it out that it's harmful. And it's so bananas to me because if I was a mental health provider and I was sending people to a group that there were people saying it was very harmful, my reaction would be to investigate these alleged harm cases and see what the heck they were on about, so I could see through critical thinking if I was actually complicit in the harm by sending people to the group, instead of just bringing out the guns and trying to, on the internet in a very public way, because I've had like psychiatrists and doctors and therapists come at me hard in the comments, and I'm like, I thought you took an oath to do no harm. So I'm talking about there's harm, and instead of hearing that I'm saying there's harm, you're harming me with words? Like, what planet are we on?
The way that they defend it is horrifying, like absolutely horrifying. They shut down the criticism and they just go for it. Amanda Parker said, "We care more about your life than your feelings." 100%. That is exactly how they frame it, even though neither one is true.
I literally said that. I was like, I have to care, as your sponsor, I have to care more about your sobriety than your feelings. I said it, guys. I did it. I was AA for a decade. I wasn't like a hardcore crazy sponsor. I didn't tell anybody what job to have or who to date or anything like that. But yeah, I preached the ideology.
Same. Katie and Alex plus dog said, "Just submit." Yep, that's totally the thing here. Like Ed Wilson in California said, fake. Oh, I should let you take that one because I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Just go for it.
Egalitarianism. All alcoholics are the same. Bullshit. We're crazy and varied as society itself.
That's one of the things that's in that True Believer book about how to create a mass movement, is about you got to kind of homogenize everybody. You give them the fake personality, you convert them all into your way or whatever. I'm totally paraphrasing. And the line that I remember from AA that took out or squashed our individuality, which was literally Jung's work. Remember, Bill's trying to say the reason why his work is valid, why Bill's work is valid, is because Jung had an idea. No, Bill. Jung's work was all about individuality. And when I got to AA, they were saying garden variety drunk or terminal uniqueness. They were actively shaming individuality at the groupthink level. Now, let me know if you're watching the replay. Did you hear that? Did you hear terminal uniqueness? Did you hear garden variety drunk in the comments here if you're live? Like, they're actively shaming individuality.
Yeah, it's insane. It's literally insane. Blue Butterfly said, "Tara, don't you converse with therapists and counselors on LinkedIn?" I do. I need to do it more. You know, I got to go through my spurts where I'm like really focused on one thing and then I kind of skip around, but I do need to do it more. But that's where I've really realized how many people, they just kind of take even if they hear about the harm, it's like, well, it helps a lot of people though. Like that's just where their line is, right? Well, it helps a lot. They think it helps a lot, whether they think it's however many they think. The fact that in their mind it helps, that's enough, and they don't need to hear about the harm, because in their minds, the harmful spaces can be everywhere. They don't take the time, in my opinion, obviously some of them do, they don't take the time enough to listen to what the harm is, like they just don't. Oh, man. Yeah, Kate said, "For Catholics, we are born with sin. For AA, we walk into the rooms with sin." it's a religion. Yeah, I totally.
I think we have a lot of comments over here that are about the garden variety drunk and the terminal uniqueness, the shaming of the individuality. Will you pop some of those up, please?
I see this one.
Nadine, just go down in order. Yeah.
This is the one I see.
Okay. So Mag says, I called myself a garden variety drink often, like a little mass-produced concrete garden gnome. Totally. And then Nadine says, I've heard of those terms. Yeah. So Nadine's also heard of garden variety drunk and terminal uniqueness, I believe. And then
That's the only one I saw about that.
Yeah. And then there's another comment from Nadine at the bottom. I freaking love when you converse, educate with professionals. They often are really clueless. I think that one's for you. The professionals that I've conversated with are the ones who are actively shaming me in the comments. Yeah, and it's across socials. It's not even on, I was going to say on TikTok. I'm like, no, on Instagram though. Like the therapist or psychiatrist that have like come at me hard, and I'm like,
it's wild.
I thought we were doing no harm. Like, why are you harming the person who says the group that you're promoting is harmful? Like, in what world is this okay?
I know, it's insane.
Just don't comment if you don't agree. Like, what if you just don't agree and you don't want to look into it? But why are you actively like being harmful in your own words to people who are calling out harm?
Yeah, they won't even look at it. Or the ones I've encountered, at least, not at all. We'll take this last one from Jim because I gotta get going, guys.
Jim says, I was the hopeless variety. Oh, cheers for that. Totally hopeless variety. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this very exciting adventure here today as we celebrated the Bring Your Own Belladonna extravaganza, Bill's white light spiritual experience, borrowed from the Oxford group, borrowed from his grandfather, borrowed from Carl Jung, even though Carl Jung's life work was about individuation, not groupthink indoctrination. Individuation, not indoctrination, Bill. You missed the word there. And it's been a party. It's been fun. It's been great to have you here. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments about spiritual experience. For me, I like having these topic videos because then we can kind of gather all of our thoughts in one place. It kind of leaves a little record for future people who are going to find us. Like if somebody leaves AA in 4 months from now, 4 years from now, and they come and find this, they want to hear everybody's thoughts on spiritual experience. Your thoughts will be archived in the comments, our thoughts, and we've shared your thoughts on the live stream as well for the future people to see, and for anybody who's going to come tune in next week or tomorrow even, or tonight to catch the replay. But I like having these, like going topic by topic to deconstruct all the different aspects as a team together, because it's not what any individual person thinks. And I honestly believe the healthiest way to deconstruct is to listen to multiple resources, which is why I always heavily encourage the comment conversations, because what you think matters, obviously, your knowledge, your wisdom, and some of you might even have like done your thesis in grad school on Jungian psychology, for example, and like way blow out of the waters anything that I know or that we know. So please share your thoughts in the comments and let this be a little time capsule on Phil's spiritual experience or spiritual experience in general. And I have a question, guys. Do you think that I should use my ayahuasca rocket ship experience to launch a program, get the courts to mandate people to my rocket ship program?
Probably be better than that one. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye. Oh, and if you have any topic recommendations, let us know in the comments. What would you like to see in future episodes of Burnie and Bestie Live? Let a Burnie, let a Bestie know. All right, goodbye, guys.
Bye.